Captive audience. I'm Sunny Danforth. I'm silencing my phone. There we are. So, it is Fabulous Friday, and Kevin Hoare was supposed to be here with me tonight, but he wasn't able to make it. So it's me, and tonight we're going to talk about. Well, first, let me tell you, we've got some weather. We've got wind, and we're supposed to have a whole lot of wind tonight. We don't have any snow except in the mountains and some rain. But otherwise, hey, happy Friday. Here it is, happy Friday. And, we are 4 days away from the election. So tonight, what I'm going to talk about is the ballot measures. We have four big ballot measures that are on statewide on the ballot. And I think it's important. Kevin and I wanted to discuss them this weekend and, discuss them today before, the ballots, before everybody votes. I'll tell you what, a lot of people are voting this weekend. I know a lot of people today. I was making calls and I kept hearing, "Yep, I'm voting on Sunday. I'm voting this weekend." So thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. And yes, I too am praying red all over, not just Oregon, but our nation. But for sure, Oregon, we've got to, turn things around. So I'm going to post this story from the Oregon Catalyst, and that is on Measure 111. And so from the Oregon, so first of all, let me read you what Measure 111 says. I've got my handy dandy voter pamphlet book here with my little pink tabs. And Measure 111 says, amends the Constitution. State must ensure affordable healthcare access, balanced against requirement to fund schools and other essential services. Well, I don't know about you, but the schools are failing in Oregon, and other essential services are failing as well. And my viewpoint is because of the man-made catastrophe that has been a lot of people been fired from their jobs because of the lack of a job. And so we have a lot of shortages of people willing to work. And frankly, a lot have moved out of Oregon just because of what's gone on. So that's, number one. So this is about having state mandated, essentially, single payer healthcare. And so I will tell you, for me, if a ballot measure says we're going to amend the Constitution, that's like automatic no, because I think our Oregon Constitution is pretty good, and we don't need to change it on a whim of something. Well, this is not a whim, but this is something super serious for Oregon to amend their constitution for affordable health care for everybody. And it is not a right. And some would say that this is a right, but it isn't. There's no guarantee of health care for anybody at all. Now, so Representative Reschke wrote about in the Oregon Catalyst, the article that I just posted, that says Measure 111 is too expensive and it won't work. They're saying if you think healthcare is expensive now, just wait until it's free. Well, you know what? Nothing is free at all. Nothing. The air you breathe, there you go. And the sunlight, that's it. And so when the meaning is clear, he says, when government runs and pays for all healthcare, the inefficiencies, cronyism, and corruption that are inherent with such large governmental programs will be part of our healthcare system. And I couldn't agree more. So I'm going to go back now to this voter pamphlet because, when they put something in the voter pamphlet, the ballot measures, they always have an estimate of financial impact. So it says the financial impact to for state and local expenditures and revenue is indeterminate. Indeterminate. They have no idea. And as it says, it would be balanced against requirements to fund the school and other essential services. So this will double our budget. How do you like that? Where does that money come from? Oh, it comes from fees. It comes from taxes that we're not supposed to have. Sales tax. Go buy a car and tell me there's no tax on it. Wanted to let you know some of the committee members on this, they're all Democrats. Shemia Fagan, of course, the state treasurer, Tobias Reed. So, there's good information in a voter pamphlet, not always, but there is. And then those that want to argue in favor of this, there's many arguments in favor of this. The SEIU, Oregon supports the there's the healthcare PAC. And another argument in favor is the Oregon Academy of Family Physicians, the Nurses Association. But remember, these are all unions. I doubt that all of their members truly want this. And the school board, Oregon School-Based Health, I said school board, correct, I'm correcting that. Oregon School-Based Health Alliance. And so there are some that are in favor of this. And one argument in the voters pamphlet is against it, and that is from a Representative Kim Wallen. And she said, this measure creates a new right, a fundamental right in the Oregon Constitution. It differs in one significant way from all other rights. Rights are limits on the laws the government can pass. Rights are freedoms from governments. So this measure is 180 degrees from that, she writes. No definition of a right has ever obligated another person to do something so you can have your right. This measure would change all that. And in my opinion, Measure 111 is a test of how this would, oh, thank you very much. I didn't know I was freezing. This would, how we are, it's a test for what they can get away with in the state, in the nation. I really feel that Oregon is a trial ground, a proving ground to see what we can do across the nation. And healthcare is not a right. As David and I talked about this on Wednesday, or not David and I, but Dawn and I talked about it on Wednesday. David and I talked about it on Tuesday. We touched base on it a little bit, but we do need to, you have to think very carefully about changing the Oregon Constitution. And it needs to be something super important as a reason to do that. I like my health insurance, and this would be a single payer health insurance, as my understanding, as I've read about this. And so my health insurance wouldn't even be allowed any longer. And I have good health insurance. I like it. I pay for it. It's not free. I do pay for it. But I don't want to lose it. And much like Obamacare, you would, had that continued, and we still have lots of that, you would lose your health care. And so this is saying in our state, going to a single payer healthcare system. I think it's fraught with fraud, could be, as Iwar Nareski pointed out, and not going to be the best thing for Oregon. That's I see some of your what about our rights, and some of the comments here that yes, I was freezing. Are there and there were too many arguments in favor, and we needed more arguments against. And I totally agree. But if people don't put them in, then it costs money to also submit something. But um, and is it for non-citizens? I'm sure it is. And non-citizen can get a free abortion in Oregon. You can fly into the state of Oregon and have an abortion tomorrow, and you're covered financially. Your medical bill is covered, and that's a whole nother topic. But on Measure 111, having a single-payer health care, in my opinion, is not a good thing for Oregon in changing our constitution. So, and also in Iwar Nareski's article, he said some estimates the cost of this poorly worded ballot measure will cost the state $22 billion a year. To put that in perspective, the biennial 2-year general fund budget for the state of Oregon is $25 billion. So yes, I said doubling the budget. There you are. And also note, K through 12 education usually takes up $9 billion. So where's this extra money coming from? I'd like to know. It comes from you. It comes from me. The businesses that are leaving Oregon because of the cat tax, because of the gross receipts tax, there's so many things that are so wrong with Oregon, and this is going to pile on even more. Measure 111 is a constitutional provision, meaning it would require another vote of the people to unwind this ballot measure, or 2/3 of the legislature with a governor's signature. In other words, highly unlikely. I'm still reading from the Oregon Catalyst article there that Representative Reschke wrote, and I appreciate him writing. So he says, and I concur, strongly urge a no vote on ballot measure 111. It will significantly increase our taxes, and the quality and timeliness of healthcare will become far, far worse. Now, I ask you, let's say you're an Oregon resident and you go to Idaho or Washington and you get hurt and you have to go to the hospital. Are you still going to have insurance that's covered? Can you imagine that hospital having to contact the state of Oregon? Oh, sorry, we're closed. Our system's down right now. I mean, that's what we've had through the pandemic, through the, with paying unemployment. It's awful. It's awful. Yeah, Pat says, what's the fastest highway to Idaho, right? So, I mean, I hear you. And yeah, 84. 84 is the one. Okay, so that's on 111. Now 112. Measure 112. That one, I'll tell you, these groups that are writing all of this is something else. So Measure 112 states, I got my trusty voter guide here, amends the Constitution, once again, anytime it does that, no. Removes language allowing slavery and involuntary servitude as a punishment for a crime. And the financial impact, it says, again, is indeterminate. They have no idea what this would cost at all. So I looked at some of the arguments in favor and arguments in opposition. I want to give you a little, both sides. I've, of course, opposed this. There's a few law enforcements that support voting yes on Measure 112. And guess what they are, who they are? They're district attorneys. Let's see, the Columbia County, Gilliam County, Wasco County, Deschutes, and Multnomah County, all of those district attorneys. And what do you want to bet they're pretty left? That's my guess. I really have no idea. Are they the Soros type of district attorneys? I don't know. But that's who is a group. Then you have the ACLU and several groups that I have never heard of, I should say. Then the argument in opposition, and again, there's only one, unfortunately, on Measure 112, only one argument in opposition in this book, and it is from the Oregon sheriffs. And so it's by the Oregon State Sheriff's Association. And I'm very happy that the sheriffs are united against this. They say the Oregon sheriffs do not condone or support slavery and or involuntary servitude in any form. But with that being said, the Oregon sheriffs cannot support Measure 112 as drafted. It creates unintended consequences for Oregon jails that would result in the elimination of all reformative programs and increased costs to local jail operations. And it's because the jails have a long history of reformative programs that serve as an incentive for good behavior, helps adults in custody at gaining skills, and provides adults in custody with something to do that reduces their sentence. So remember, this is not about slavery. This is about slavery in servitude as a crime. That's and people, some people, as I've talked to, they go, oh yeah, we're not for slavery. I go, wait a minute, you have to read the black part, don't read between the lines, just read what it really says. And so there's two major problems that the voter pamphlet is saying. First, only those convicted are covered by this measure, leaving behind individuals awaiting trial. Second, the programs currently operated by jails are not ordered by a court or a probation or parole officer. This measure provides no authority for existing programs without an order from the court, probation officer, or parole officer. So, and it goes on. Y'all have one of these, you could read it. And then the question could be, there's an article here I have from the Oregon Capital Chronicle that I'm going to post right now. And it is, this article is also, the question could end up being tossed to Oregon appellate courts. It says, almost everyone opposes slavery, but what does it mean? And this measure has gotten strong support with little visible opposition. And if you're aware of any opponents or opposing arguments, please send this Ballotpedia any link. Well, let me tell you. But what does slavery actually mean? The answer is not as obvious as you might think. The Oregon Constitution says, and has for generation, this about slavery. There shall be neither slavery nor involuntary servitude in the state otherwise than as a punishment for crime, whereof the party shall have been duly convicted. Take note of that exception, which echoes similar language in the U.S. Constitution. That's all this is. That's what this ballot measure is. It's not changing anything else except that. And having that for those that are convicted and as punishment of a crime, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It also teaches people, many of whom I would assume have not had gainful employment. That's why they've been out robbing people and whatever they've done to get themselves locked up. But they can learn something else. So, and then there are, for example, I was at a city council meeting that was talking about the use of we have a prison that's not too far away, and also the jail, and using the inmates there, they have a work program that they can come out and do some work for our community. They earn a pittance, but it also gets them out of there and getting them exercise and fresh air, and also, like it mentioned, reducing their sentence. So that is not a bad thing. So it's measure 112, measure 111, vote no, measure 112, vote no. And I think that it's important that we look at these things and talk about them a bit. Now, measure 113, oh my. Measure 113, I'm going to post this article, and that has to do with the walkouts. And people might go, oh, well, we don't want them walking out at all. Our legislators walking out. Well, I want you to know that the Democrats were the first to use that as a way of stopping a Republican legislator from passing some legislation. So Measure 113 reads, amends the Constitution. Once again, that's a no vote. Legislators with 10 unexcused absences from floor sessions disqualified from holding next term of office. Now, that sounds pretty good, right? The financial fiscal impact, they said there is none. That I do believe, although I disagree, because had our Republican legislators not walked out, some really bad, that whole cap and trade would have passed, and it definitely would have had a financial impact on all of Oregonians. So, but it doesn't have any impact to the budget necessarily, but it definitely would have led to financial way worse than the cap and trade that did get passed. Unfortunately, whatever doesn't pass in one session just gets taken on to another. And so the arguments in favor of this, there's lots of them, and even by some of the legislators. So Lori, and if Republicans are in charge, they won't want this then? Well, they might. And there are some legislators. In fact, one of the committee members, I don't know his stance on this, is Dennis Linthicum, was one of the committee members. There are independents, Republicans, and Democrats all agree that politicians should show up to work and do their job. Well, I agree with that statement, but is this ballot measure for when the Republicans have it all back? And so the Democrats, there is, I don't know. I don't know about that. Then we have lots of other arguments in favor of this. Lots of arguments in favor by all kinds of organizations, the AFL-CIO, the American Federation of Teachers, once again, all the unions. And there is not one argument against it in here, interestingly enough. But I don't think that this should change our Constitution for this. If the constituents of the legislator are not happy with the legislator in their district, it's the ballot box where they make that determination. And so I think this is something that can be a useful tool. And I don't agree that they have fines when they do a walkout like they were trying to do. But at the same time, how do you hold a legislator accountable? It's at the ballot box. That's where it's happened. And so both parties have used this. And, but I don't think it's worth changing the Oregon Constitution at all. So Republicans against the measure say it's one of the few tools they have to create balance against a Democratic supermajority in the Oregon House, Senate, and the governor's office. Yeah, you have a trifecta there. And Anna Scharf says, ultimately, as legislators, the only people that we are accountable to are the voters that put us into office. We are not beholden to the supermajority parties. And that's from Representative Anna Scharf. And I actually totally agree with that statement. It's the constituency that put them there. And I personally would recommend a no vote on that. Yeah, Patty, you're right. Klamath has great Republican representatives. And in fact, I'm really liking, we talked about that on Wednesday, what Dennis Lithicum is writing, and I do encourage people to go to his website and sign up for he's an excellent writer. And I think they're definitely worth reading. I've been on his email list for a long time, and I enjoy it. So I would definitely vote no on that. And then the next one is ballot measure 114. And I'm going to go back just 1 minute, because I have read articles that say 2 of the 4 ballot measures want to change the Oregon Constitution. No, 3 of them do. 3 of these 4 ballot measures that are statewide want to amend the state constitution. And in my viewpoint, and many people that I know their viewpoint as well, they don't think that this is the reason to amend our state constitution. So be careful what you ask for. And, we need to be talking to people, those of us that are opposed to all of this. And I know from many in our viewers definitely are talking to people. Now, measure 114. Here is an article that is from KGW. Let's see. 33 in favor and 15 opposition. No for me, and most is already being done. Lori, I'm reading what you wrote there. Yeah, these people need to learn how to compromise and work for the people. So anyway, measure 114 does not change our Constitution, but it would be, if it passes, one of the strictest gun laws in the nation. And it reads, requires permit to acquire firearms. Police maintain permit firearm database. The sheriff currently does that. Criminally prohibits certain ammunition and magazines. That has already lost. The Supreme Court has deemed that's unconstitutional. And I think this whole bill is unconstitutional. And it says the estimate of financial impact. So on all of these, I've told you about the financial impact. And it says the intent of the measure is for revenues from permits to cover administrative costs. Cost estimates related to the measure were received from state and local government. However, there is uncertainty to the assumptions regarding the estimates made, including the projections of the number of permit applications, the revenue associated with those permits, and other related costs. There's also uncertainty in potential cost savings to state and local government expenditures due to an unexpected decrease in firearm-related injuries or death. Nowhere okay, let me finish reading. Therefore, the financial impact of Measure 114 for state and local governments is indeterminate. Anywhere that they have taken away firearms or limited firearms, firearm crime has not gone down. And areas that have said, in fact, I read a story today, or yesterday, about a county, I don't remember where it was, They had said that long time ago, I saw this something on Facebook, that a county had deemed every citizen must have one firearm and ammunition. And people had said, oh no, the crime's going to go through the roof. The shootings and all that's going to go through the roof, the shootings. Well, in fact, it all went down. And this is where, if you have no gun-free zones, I'm saying no gun-free zones. We don't want gun-free zones. You will have less firearm crime, in my opinion. So, yes, ballot measure. I agree that Lori says 111 through 114 equals no across the board, and I totally agree with that. So, who wants all of this? Who's in favor of it? Well, there's several pages here. And in talking about in fact, it's several pages on the explanation of this. And there's, let's see, in favor is some Joanne Fricker on behalf of the Oregon Alliance for Gun Safety. Somebody who is, I won't say that. Somebody from Lane County. I'm going to be nicer. Another one. Oh, Joanne Fricker gets to write, and she wrote another one on behalf of Lift Every Voice Oregon. Oh, she's written 3. Another Joanne Fricker on behalf of Lift, another one. And so she's done 3. Oh, 4. My goodness. Joanne Fricker is quite prolific in this voter pamphlet. So this is I wonder where Joanne Fricker lives. On behalf of Oregon Alliance for Gun Safety. And Joanne Fricker says, an argument in favor, I lost my husband to firearm suicide. Well, you know what? This bill isn't going to change any of that. How about the woman who we've all heard about in the news, the national news, that just got killed by her husband, who was let out with no bail after he beat the crap out of her, and then he killed her in front of her kids? I think she would have liked to have had a firearm. And so Joanne Fricker has written many of these. Oh, now we have another one, Courtney Dresser for Oregon Medical Association. And some other women. Joanne Fricker again, 2, 3, 4. I've lost count of how many Joanne Fricker has written. Here's another one in favor by her. So she is almost single-handedly in really, really favor of this. And I'll tell you what, this is actually very, very close. This bill is very, very close. So I'm turning the pages, and I still see Joanne Fricker's name on a lot of these arguments in favor. Iraq war veteran voting yes on 114. So this person is definitely a one-armed, or not one-armed, but is just about single-handedly. Now we're getting to some of the arguments in opposition. Kevin Starrett, he, of course, doesn't want it. And it's by Stop 114 Committee. And anybody who doesn't know, he's the chief person of Oregon Firearm Federation. The Oregon sheriffs, let me see. The Oregon state sheriffs oppose this. I'm so happy they do. And let's see, chairman of the Oregon Hunters Association. So the Oregon Hunters Association opposes it. The Oregon State Shooting Association opposes this. And there's another one by the Oregon Hunters Association, another one by them, another one by the state sheriffs. You know, it threatens our civil liberties. Here's some of the headlines. It's misleading and extreme. Yes, that it certainly is. And there's Professional Security Association of Oregon is also against this. There's several here that are for against this. Oregon Hunters Association, also the rising fascism makes community defense necessary. Oh, 100%. And it is in our Constitution. It's our constitutional right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is an infringement. If it passes, this is an infringement. And as I said earlier, Oregon is a testing ground for what could get passed across the nation. Don't ever underestimate some of these bills. And I really, really believe that we have outside forces come in, pay professional signature gatherers to get things on the ballot, to see what we can do to get passed in Oregon so that it might very well go and pass across the United States. Now, if this were to pass, it will go to court. It will go eventually, more than likely, to the Supreme Court. And I really, I pray that this does not pass. This is not good for Oregon. It is an infringement on our Second Amendment rights, and it's frankly not necessary. We have laws on the books that are not getting enforced. That's one of the biggest problems that we have. When you have a governor that is releasing criminals that should still be in jail, when you have zero bail things that are in our state, when you have Antifa running amok and other groups that are causing problems and are not being prosecuted, we don't have equal protection under the law, which is what we should have. This is the problem. And I'm definitely an advocate for gun rights, gun ownership, safe gun ownership. Be responsible, go get training. And it's important. In these days and this day and age, as we go around, we need to you can't just dial 911 and expect the police to be there right away. It's about taking responsibility for your public safety, no matter where you are, be it with a firearm or a pepper spray or a baseball bat or whatever. There's many ways of protecting yourself. So on this article that I posted, it actually this measure is polling very closely, and if it passes, would be the strictest gun control measure in the nation, and it is also unconstitutional. I absolutely believe that 100%. So it's polling closely, but this is by Nelson Research, which has done a very small number of people, 577. Likely voters thought that they would vote on Measure 114. So 46.1% of them said they support the measure, with 49.4% opposing it. And 4.5% are still undecided. And of course, with Nelson Research, their margin of error is 4.1%. They're quite frankly not, in my opinion, super good in, but that's in polls. But that's what that's a poll that we have, and so I'm going to come back. Yeah, it needs to go if to the Supreme Court if it passes, and you're absolutely right. We need to, I see Marjorie says we should be spending more time getting illegal criminals who have guns off the street. Well, a lot of criminals have guns and they don't pay attention to the gun laws. No criminal has ever paid attention to a gun law. It's the law-abiding citizen that does. That's where that is. That's, that's totally where that is. And it's hampering the law-abiding citizen. It never hampers the criminal. They don't wait for gun permits. They don't wait for a license to buy. They don't go, they're really stupid if they go and try to get a background check to buy a gun, quite frankly, and some do, and they get turned down because that's not the system. So, very quickly, or that is the system, right? If you don't pass your background check, you have, okay, you don't pass. Nope, you're not getting the gun. That's the way, that's what we have. We do have some laws and checks and balances. I'm going to go through just a few other things really quickly. Our voter turnout right now, the GOP is up 3% over the Democrats, and the NAVs are lagging behind. But what else is new? NAVs don't vote. We have 12,000 of them in Umatilla County that don't ever turn a ballot in. And they didn't before, they're not going to now. And that's why we need to work harder to get people that have the potential to turn their ballot in to turn it in. And then I wanted to, something else I saw, there is some big money coming in to the governor's race, and Drazen is leading in a new poll. I'm very happy about that. And the presence of the Constitution and the Libertarian Party candidates in the governor's race could prove significant, and hopefully it will prove significant. Those are the ones that will actually help Kotek, I think, because these minor party nominees could take votes from Christine Drazen. The Libertarian Party in Oregon is actually more Democrat. They're not, and so is the Independent Party. So that's not going to help. I wanted to also touch base on something else, that a story that Kevin brought to my attention, and it's by Andy No. It's our friend Andy No. Antifa in Portland boasts about voter fraud campaign across the city. And so they are, an Antifa account in Portland, Oregon, regularly involved with planning riots, is boasting about committing voter fraud by submitting multiple ballots every day across the city. He is encouraging his comrades to do the same. Oregon has universal mail-in voting, and polling shows Republican Christine Drazen is statistically tied with Tina Kotek in a deep blue state. Now, so this is, we have a lot of work to do, but know that the far lefts are going to do everything they can, to try to help Tina Kotek win. And Kotek, who served as the Speaker of the Oregon House of Representatives for 9 years, expressed support for Antifa rioters in 2020, and her top staffer was arrested at a violent riot. So she is seen as a continuation of outgoing Governor Brown. So I'm going to post this article very quickly for you here from Andy No. And then I wanted to bring up, I thought this was great. I've got two what I think are funny things to end this with. So it's been revealed that layoff Twitter employee attended Antifa Portland riots and lied about the police. What do you know about that, right? Of course. So I'm very happy that, frankly, that this former Twitter employee. So this guy, oh yeah, make his face famous, right? Dashura Young. And Elon Musk started laying off employees on Friday, one of whom is ex-site reliability engineering manager Eric Shamau from Portland, Oregon. And he attended the violent Black Lives Matter Antifa riots and the Antifa riots of 2020 and used the social media platform to spread disinformation, imagine that, pushed by far-left Portland City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty, which blamed police for the disastrous riots. Well, there's a lot of us that knew of the false narrative there and the lies and whatnot. Now, this I think is very, very funny. And I hope there's a lot of Democrats who received it, will pay attention to it, and wait and vote. Because in the Oregon Catalyst here, oops, Kotek Wyden are part of a Vote November 18th postcard. Yes, November 18th. So a group called East County Rising, encouraging votes for Senator Ron Wyden, Earl Blumenauer, Tina Kotek, and many more, made the mistake of asking voters to vote on November 18th. Yes, go Democrats. Vote on November 18th. And people make mistakes, but let me tell you, they rushed that one to the printer and out the door before proofreading and making sure it said November 8th. So hooray! I hope a lot of people hold their ballots till November 18th. So check those out. And you guys have a wonderful weekend. Make phone calls for your candidate. Knock on doors. Do everything that you can to get voters voting. Return their ballots. Turn them in no later than 8 p.m. on Tuesday. They have to be in a drop box. It's way too late to mail your ballot. I don't ever recommend that. And thank you very much. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Bobby, very, very much. And you all have a super weekend and get out the vote. Most important. See you next week.